Active learning is an approach to instruction that involves actively engaging students with the course material through discussion, problem solving, case studies, play roles, and other methods. There are a wide range of alternatives for the term active learning, such as learning through play, technology-based learning, activity-based learning, group work, project method, and etc. The common factors in these are some significant qualities and characteristics of active learning. Here is our next segment with Dr. Ramya. Let us hear her out as she explains about active learning.
Hi again everyone. Like mentioned in the previous episode, now I'm going to explain how Nimaya innovation devices accelerate the rate of learning by more than 60% when compared to any other therapy system. That's because we work on a unique concept called as active learning. So what is active learning? It's nothing but when a child does an activity and there is a positive reinforcement that is given to the child. Now what happens is that the child is able to associate with the action as well as the reaction. This helps him not only learn the activity but also remember it for a very long period of time. So what makes Nimaya different? In the regular therapy system, the teacher teaches the child the activity, and due to the lack of reinforcement or the audio-visual feedback from the activity, the child takes a much longer duration of time to understand and learn, and also it has a much less retention. In case of Nimaya, the methodology is quite similar but with a twist. Here, the teacher teaches the child the activity, and now the activity gives you an audio-visual feedback. This helps the child to understand what the child is actually doing and what the child gets in return, and this helps him not only learn it and remember it for a much longer period of time, but he also generalizes in everyday life. Just to give you a little bit understanding of what generalization is, imagine you teaching a child an apple. This is an apple and the apple is in the color red. Now imagine the child can only understand this is red only when he looks at another apple and not at a red color water bottle or a red color chair. This is the child that is not generalizing that color red in everyday things. Once we started working with a lot of therapists and children across states, we realized not only did the children require help, but also the therapist did. Do you know how? Because the therapist actually had to hold a lot of different data. They have to collect a lot of data. During my trials, when I worked with children, just for each and every child, we would have to handle at least a minimum of 10 to 100 different papers just for one single child. Imagine when a therapist works with a lot of children. Imagine multiplying it to 100 or thousands of children. Imagine the amount of data that they have to handle. So to make it not only easier for the child to learn, but also for the therapist to use, all our systems were converted into IoT-based cloud monitored system. This completely takes the pressure off from the therapist because they're all paperless operation. Every single parameter is already handled by the device itself. Every single parameter is recorded by the device itself, and all the recordings of the day's session will be put in by the therapist. Okay, let me give you an explanation. If you actually recollect a few episodes before, I told you how important social interaction is for a child with autism. And if it's just going to be the robot directly working with the child and taking the human out of the equation, then we will already be counterbanding what is happening. To avoid this, we were very clear on the fact that there will be no screen time for the child because we completely believe in physical three-dimensional devices, and also most importantly, we never take the human out of the equation. So, devices are used by the therapist to train the child. Say for an example, a therapist uses a ball or a wooden puzzle to train a child. Here, the therapist will use the Nimaya robotic devices to train the child, and that's how it works. It works as a tool in the toolkit of a therapist. Individual progress tracking database, and they also are equipped with parameter-based performance measurements. So this helps the therapist not only to understand how the child is progressing in every single session, but also helps the parents to see how much the child has improved or how better the child is becoming in every single session. This gives a tangible evidence for all those worrying parents who think that they do not know how their child is doing, right? Along with these devices, we also developed a Supra Yoga training methodology that helps train the therapist to train the children. So one of the things that keeps us going is the sheer satisfaction we get out of the happiness that the parents have when they see their children doing so much better. I'm going to share a few of the instances that we have faced or we have experienced when we worked with children across the states. So, once we worked with a child who was about 5 years old, and in the evening, his mom called up in a frantic voice and she was like, "You know what, Ramya, I have amazing news." I was like, "Okay, that's nice thing. What is it?" She's like, "My child locked me up in the room." And I was like, "That's not a happy thing." He was like, "No, my child who has never been able to open or put locks or lock it up was able to do that just because of training in your system." So this was one of such an amazing happy thing that we figured out. The other instances that we had was a child who had mask-like features. Mask-like features is that the child does not smile or frown or show any kind of emotion. He just has a straight face ever since he's been born. He was about 5 years when we worked with him. He does not know how to imitate what somebody else is doing, or he does not cry or smile. He only screams whenever he is in agony. And his parents had brought the child in for training with us, and in just matter of 8 to 9 days, his mom came the next day and was so happy to tell me that he started imitating whatever was on the screen. He started imitating the Complan ad. He started imitating when the parent was trying to do chapati and everything else. So this was the kind of difference we were able to see. So one other instance was that a child who was about 11 and a half years old didn't even know how to identify a shoe. But just with a few days with our shoe system, he not only identified what a shoe was, he knew the difference between right and left. He was able to put it on and also put on the velcros in the exact correct pattern. And this helps him become independent. And this is just few of the many examples that showed that our systems help the children. So, if you are a parent who is worried about your child with autism or any other disability with a psychomotor skill deficit, you have one more avenue to explore, and we are always here to help you with whichever requirement that you need. Alright, so the past few episodes have taught you how robotics helps children with autism, and you always know that Nimaya is here to help you. Nimaya means to create a change in Sanskrit, and that's exactly what we are trying to do by helping millions of others progress towards independent living. Thank you.